Welcome to Lesson 9 of MySci Unit 15, Observing Weather Patterns. In Lesson 9, students will answer the question, how are weather and climate two different things? In this lesson, students will build on their previous learning by referring back to their data in order to examine the relationship between weather patterns and their relationships to world climate regions. They figure out that there are patterns across climate regions for different locations within that area. In the Engage portion of this lesson, students will watch a video about what weather is. They will see the components of weather and climate. Using the video and what they learned in the previous lesson, students will discuss the difference between weather and climate. In the Explore portion of this lesson, students will define the 5 major climate zones: polar, continental, moderate, dry, and tropical. Students will revisit the climate graph they analyzed for a city and determine which climate zone their city would fall into. In the Explain portion of this lesson, students will use an interactive resource to learn more about climate zones. The interactive shows where the various climate zones are located on Earth. When clicking on the legend, informational boxes pop up that include the description of the zone, pictures, and location examples. You can also click on the location directly on the map. Students will use this interactive to determine the climate zone their city actually falls under, as well as their classmates' cities. In the Elaborate portion of this lesson, students will discuss which cities are within the same climate zone and how the weather in these locations compare. Students can compare the data from the climate graphs. Additionally, you could have students look up the day's weather for cities in the same climate zone to deepen the discussion about the difference between weather and climate. Even though 2 locations are within the same climate zone, they can still have very different day-to-day weather. In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, students will complete a formative assessment. They will construct explanations about how meteorologists can use information and trends about climatic regions to predict the weather. By the end of this lesson, students will have, first, describe the characteristics of Earth's major climate zones, and secondly, explain the difference between weather and climate.